Welcome back. You're watching Citizen Extra, our special coverage of the party primaries today. Of course, two counties rather, in ODM, and we have about 5 counties Jubilee primaries, 1 Kitui Wiper party doing a primary there. In studio, I have Dina Agai, who's a political analyst and a member of the National Women's Steering Committee, where she is a social justice activist. And we also have Vincent Kimosop, a political analyst. Thank you so much both for making time for us today. I'll start with you, Kimosop. First, what do you think of the process so far? Do you think there's a marked difference from what we saw on Friday? That is, of course, regards Jubilee primaries, about how they've handled the exercise today, plus the ODM primaries that we've seen so far. How has it been?
I think, Hussein, first, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Straight to the point, I believe that we should be magnanimous and really abundant in grace in appreciating what the political parties have done, in the sense that if you look at our political parties have not matured to the level whereby they can conduct a nomination or an exercise of this magnitude. So the mere fact that they've pulled all they had to be able to take us to this point is we have to be honest with ourselves, with the context we are dealing with, and say political parties have tried.
Right.
Now, for Jubilee, I think as a student of leadership, one thing I must really say that I admired the president when he came out clearly as a head of a party, admitting that we had challenges and owning up to them. I think that is something that is commendable. And then secondly is also, remember, it's the second time. The last time when he said that, when we was asked about the issue of sports, and he says we've not constructed. So I believe that from a governance perspective, I think of course you can see that it's an easy thing for the opposition to use, but I think from a leadership perspective, you would admire that kind of courage. Wish them well, wish ODM well, wish Jubilee well. But over and above this, there are lessons that are coming up that as a society we should be having conversations on. Number one is when I look at the electoral management body, the IBC in this instance, they have not utilized this opportunity to project even a greater level of preparedness, a greater level of authority that I would look forward towards the August elections with more certainty, knowing that there should be a better level of demonstration, knowing that this is an institution we've invested billions in money. The other one is also the security apparatus, Hussein. If you look at our constitutional framework, the National Police Service is an independent agency. If you look at we are seeing more of the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination, unlike actually the National Police Service. So in my view, we should leave policy matters more towards the ministry, and then allow the operational framework on security enhancement to the National Police Service. So I think
we'll come to all that shortly, and I'll go into much detail on them. Dina, what is your how have you seen the process so far? What would you say they need to do better, or they have done better? I don't know. What do you think?
I think I want to commend the 2 major political parties for attempting to have the nomination process, which has been a humongous undertaking. But I want to be clear about some things that first and foremost, if you compare ODM and Jubilee, it is very clear that these are 2 students who sat for an examination. One did not even try or attempt to do it, so it was called off. Another one attempted with irregularities that we appreciate. At least they attempted with irregularities. And so I want to commend ODM for what it has so far done. Of course, we all want a peaceful process, which in both camps we've seen some flare-ups here and there that we are discouraging. But I also want to say that probably what was a big problem in the Jubilee camp is the fact that Jubilee was formed just the other day. They only have their headquarters towering somewhere in Pangani, but they do not have the structures up to Mashinani. as compared to ODM that probably was more organized. They've tried having elections in their party before. They also have structures up to the grassroots. So it was making it easier for them to take this process forward. But I want to believe that even as we go forward, we are not going to see any flare-ups in terms of violence, especially in the strongholds. For example, in my home area in Kisumu, in Homa Bay, in Migori, and on the other side also in their strongholds like in Uasin Gishu.
Actually, they have just now that you mentioned that, the Interior Ministry has talked about some of those hotspots. We'll come back to that shortly. Let's go over fast to Elgeyo Marakwet, where Baringo County rather, where Wilkis Nyabwa is standing by. Wilkis, good afternoon. Last time we heard of delays when we talked to you about an hour or so ago. How is the process so far?
Good afternoon, Hussein. Well, there were delays in parts of Baringo County. In fact, right at this moment, we are at Moi Primary School in Kabartonjo, Baringo North. And an interesting thing that is happening here is that ballot papers have only just arrived. They arrived about, voting began just under an hour ago. And this is due to several things, including the fact that there were transport problems, as well as the fact that apparently ballot papers for the MP aspirants were missing in 18 wards, which of course, in 18 polling stations, which of course caused a problem here. We are now joined by the presiding officer of this particular polling station to just give us a few insights about what happened this morning. Bernard Koech, please tell us exactly why did voting begin so late at this polling station?
I think it's because most of the aspirants had not arrived by the time the voting or the ballot boxes arrived. So I believe they are waiting for one another so that they open when all of them are there. So that's the reason I think was which caused the delay. Yes.
And were there also problems with not having some aspirants on the ballot papers or such issues?
Well, there was this problem of 18 stations in Kabartonjo ward, which missed the MP or the MP's papers. The ballot boxes for the MP was missing, and I understand the MP, the aspirants met, and they agreed that they are going to more or less either photocopy or do something. I don't know how they have agreed, but I understand they met and they resolved on that issue. Yes.
Now, in this particular polling station, voting has been on for less than an hour, but already there have been complaints about voters who cannot find their names on the voter register. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that. How many cases, and what are you doing about it so far?
That's true. So far, in this polling station of Moi Kabartonjo, there are about 10 voters whose names are missing in the list, and I'm about to contact the returning officer so that he can tell me the way forward. But I know they are not supposed to vote, because if their names are missing in the voters list or register, then they are supposed not to vote unless otherwise. Yes.
Will there be an extension for people who might come late and still want to vote, given that voting began so late?
I believe so, because if the voters will be in the queue, they will be allowed to vote until that queue is over. But the way I'm seeing the voters coming, they are likely to finish the voting before I mean. And I know the time will be extended, definitely, because it started late. So we are going to allow them vote if they are in the queue. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Bernard. So these are some of the issues that we have seen in Baringo, in this Baringo North sub-county. And what we find interesting is just that, repeating what he said, was that 18 polling stations in Kabartonjo did not have ballot papers for the MP aspirants. And we are told, we have spoken to the Jubilee Election Board Chair, Baringo North sub-county, Bernard Lotole, who told us that aspirants met for about an hour at the DC's office, and what they resolved was that given that there were a few papers for MP aspirants, that they would photocopy them and then they would distribute them to all the polling stations so that voting could begin, because all the other materials were available, but just the limited number of ballot papers for MP aspirants in this area meant that voting could not begin until quite late. Voting has now begun at this center and in other centers as they receive their papers, and all the aspirants, we are told, were okay with the fact that the MP aspirants' ballot papers were photocopied. So these are some of the issues we will be photocopying, we will be following up on, because in this station, for example, there are 687 voters, and the presiding officer saying they have confidence that quite a number will be able to vote by the end of the day. So they will be keeping this and other stations open as long as there are voters who want to come in and vote. Back to you, Hussein.
Thank you so much, Wilkis Nyabwa, live from Baringo County. Coincidentally, the county where one of our guests this afternoon comes from, that is Vincent Kimosop. I don't know why he's not there voting.
The presiding officer.
You actually know the presiding officer. So if you are there, you'd be voting there now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be voting in Cabernet,
okay.
Next one.
Right. Yeah. But you did not go to vote today?
I'm here same to advance.
Because you're not a member of any political party, that's what I assume? Okay. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Dina, you were just talking about security, and we can now listen in on what Kaiseri said, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, this afternoon, earlier today, that is.
To question Kenyans that any person found taking the law into their own hands will be dealt with in accordance with the law. This includes misuse of firearms by aspirants and their bodyguards, as has been witnessed in some counties. We have also witnessed situations where some politicians and their supporters have engaged in acts of violence, destroying properties, and creating disturbance in polling stations. Politically instigated violence has been witnessed in Homa Bay, Kisii, Migori, Kisumu, Busia, Bungoma, Murang'a, Kiambu, Nakuru, Kajiado, Embu, and Mombasa, just to name a few. Action is being taken against those responsible for electoral violence, and indeed, among others, 17 suspects are appearing in court, in Migori court now, while in Nakuru County, a parliamentary aspirant and 3 of his supporters were arrested in possession of crude weapons and will be arraigned in court. In other counties, it has been reported that there were clear plans to rig some aspirants by compromising returning officers and police officers providing security in polling stations. The government is resolute in dealing with this, and we shall be consulting with IEBC with a view to having those candidates who will be found culpable of such malpractice disqualified.
And you have a problem with this Kimosop. Why? Because the police, after all, under the purview of the Interior Ministry.
No, they are not. If you read the Constitution, it's saying the police ought to be an independent arm, because if you remember recently, there was a directive that came from the IBC actually giving cabinet secretaries the go-ahead to even campaign for campaign for the president. Do you remember that conversation? So the challenge you have to say is that the spirit of what Nkaiseri is doing is commendable. I think we should objectively give him a clap for him, because you can see the intention is good. But when you also have the courage to analyze from a policy perspective, you realize that if such a statement would come from the National Police Service, a body that is meant to be independent, remember, even it's a service serving all, it strengthens and it gives the National Police Service the position that was envisaged in the Constitution. Then, from the statement, if I was writing the statement for Nkaiseri, is that then he would then recommend, he would point out the policy framework that they've laid to facilitate such kind of an environment. So then how do you differentiate, for example, when you say the government has taken steps when somebody is in the opposition who is seen to be a victim of, you see, that raises challenges in such a time.
Because after all, they've also been campaigning.
Yes, because Nkaiseri has been on the record saying, even telling chiefs to campaign for the president. So how do you, so in my view, I think if I was an advisor to the ministry, is to leave the policy options for the same and operational issues for the National Police. Still, all of you will be achieving the same thing, so that the focus is not on Nkaiseri, the focus really is on the police service.
Right. Dina?
I just want to add that even as Nkaiseri has given his position, other constitutional bodies like the NCIC, IPOA, the office of the DPP, the registrar's office, should try and find a way of working in tandem, so that we are able to sort these issues in real time or faster. But I want to commend him for what he has said. We do not want to see bloodshed, especially right now in Kenya. And today, I am happy that in most places there is police deployed, and it is rather peaceful compared to last week. And so I want to urge Kenyans to continue being peaceful, and whoever it is that will bring chaos should be dealt with forthwith.
Right. Yeah. There's also an issue I'd like us to talk about, and I'll read one text here. Somebody didn't say their name or who they are or where they're from, but says, Hussein, please ask whether free and fair nominations means only when you have won. Surely it's not. It's only one person who can only win at a time. We'll discuss that shortly when I talk about how fair or how fair or not the process has been for all the parties that are doing this party primaries. First, let's go over to Bomet County. Stephen Eto is standing by there with the latest. Eto.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Hussein Mohammed, there in studio. Indeed, we have pitched tent here in Bomet County, and where we are now is Konoin constituency, where voting is underway, and just several voters, or hundreds of them, have visited several polling stations across this constituency to cast their ballot. Remember, the battle for the gubernatorial seat is between Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Joyce Laboso, and Julius Kones, and Stephen Mutai, who are eyeing to clinch the Jubilee Party ticket. And so there is a lot going on here in Bomet County, some hitches here and there, but the party says it is handling the same. But what we have managed to gather is there was some ballot papers that missed the positions of, or the names of 8 aspirants eyeing the county assembly seat in Kapletundo, and that's what we are waiting to see whether it has been resolved. The same, we are told the presiding officer in that particular region said that the election for the seat of governor, senator, woman representative, as well as member of parliament is ongoing. And so there are several cases of malpractices here and there. Some, we were in the morning somewhere again where they say they had confiscated some ballot papers or some ballot boxes that had pre-marked names inside. And so those are some of the issues that police are handling right now, but all aspirants still remain confident that they are going to get a free, fair, and transparent process. Remember, it's only a few hours before the exercise comes to a close, and vote counting and subsequent vote tallying begins, and that is when we shall know who is. Remember, Bomet County is housing 5 constituencies, among them Konoin constituency, Chepalungu, we have Sotik, Bomet Central, and Bomet East. Each constituency attracting more than 5, and even others attracting to up to 17 aspirants eyeing in the scramble for the Jubilee Party ticket. Remember, clinching a Jubilee Party ticket in this stronghold of the Red Party means that one has 1 foot ahead in terms of becoming a member of parliament, senator, or governor for that matter. And so with me here, I have a guest, that is Julius Kones, who is also eyeing to fly the red flag ahead of the August 8 polls. And so just to take us through, what do you feel or what do you think of the process so far?
Let me say the process started fairly well early in the morning, but we have experienced a few challenges here and there, particularly with a shortage of ballot papers in many polling stations. Very common, particularly in Konoin here, Mogoshek ward, where we are. About 7 polling stations are yet to start voting as we speak. Remember, this is where I come from. It's a bit unfortunate that this has happened in my background. Secondly is the issue about missing names in the register. The register is not as complete as we thought. It's as if most of the registers were tampered with. There are very old voters who have been voting for ages, and their names are not in this register. So we wonder what really happened with the register. Somebody either tampered with the register or manipulated to suit a particular outcome.
Well, there are cases of some malpractices in terms of some ballot papers being confiscated. Some even we saw some youths there trying to block the road. What information do you have on the same?
Yeah, it's true. Of course, there were marked ballot papers in Bomet. Someone was found here in Mokoshek photocopying also the ballot papers. I think quite a number, up to about 2,000 ballot papers were confiscated by the police. We don't know whether some other ballot papers had found their way to whoever was involved, but it means, of course, the process is not watertight as we thought. But lucky enough, I think the general public, the voters, are very keen. They are very sensitive, and they have been able to report any kind of malpractice to the agencies and to the officials, and this has helped a bit. By and large, I think the exercise has continued fairly well. Despite all these issues, I think that generally across the county, the exercise has continued.
Well, with those complaints that you're having in terms of marked ballot papers and some even for your opponents, do you then think that entirely this process is free, fair, and credible, that you will accept the outcome?
I think until the exercise is complete, then I can make that conclusion, because between now and the tallying is still a long process. So anything can still happen, but so far I can say fairly good. I can't say it's completely free and fair, but fairly good. But until we do the tallying, we see how that is done, the bringing back of the ballot papers from the polling centers to the tallying center. Things can also happen in between there, but so far I can say it's generally okay.
Thank you, Hussein. That is a gubernatorial aspirant for Bomet County, Julius Kones, in Ngororet Primary School. He says, he rates that process as fair, and he says it is not completely fair as he thought, and he says that until the outcome is seen during the tallying is when he can make that comment. And remember, this is a Jubilee stronghold, and so having almost over 300,000 registered voters expected to participate in the August 8 polls. Remember the existence of Chama Mashinani, headed by Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, spicing up the battle for Bomet County, and so by large the battle for the South districts. And so we are keeping a spot check. We are waiting any time from now. The polling stations will close, tallying will begin, and we shall be streaming to you results to Nairobi for our viewers to see who is on the lead and who is who in the race for Bomet Governor and several other seats here in the county of Bomet in the South Rift region. Back to you, Hussein, in studio.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen Leto, live from Bomet County. Back to our guests in Agai and Vincent Kimosop. That question again. First, do you think any single party can handle all the complaints by the aspirants in these party primaries?
Definitely not, because, you are dealing with interests. I can tell you, Hussein, even the person who will lose by a big margin, he will not accept. They will say, oh, the party register was not used, people imported voters, we were not prepared. Like now, look at the case of Baringo, the one we've just seen in Kabartonjo. Wilkis told us that the voting is just started an hour ago. So what stops somebody from saying that my supporters came early in the morning and that they did not vote on
which is a fact, isn't it?
You see, which is a fact, and we've seen it on live TV. So what is going to happen, Hussein, is that after this nomination period is going to end, then you will have the opportunity for the dispute resolutions to provide opportunities for resolving the same. But I can confirm to you, even by the time the last dispute is handled, there will be still people who are disgruntled. Just look at a good example. ODM got, I think, over 280 million from the nomination. I think Jubilee over 600 million. This is people's resources that they've invested in these parties. Now, Hussein, you've given out your 200,000 into a party, and here you are, you've lost by 200 votes, and you're going to tell me you need to sleep pretty. You will see there will be a lot of even shift. People going to becoming independent candidates. Others, I'm sure there are even people who are already sleeping now, even though they are going either for ODM or Jubilee nomination. They possibly have secured nomination in these fringe parties. Why? Because every politician wants to go to the ballot. So I think it will be too optimistic to say that our political parties will resolve all these disputes within this period. There will be people who will be discontent. We've already seen the case of the Nyali one. And you've seen the comments on social media, and you can see very clearly that there is a group that feels aggrieved, that injustice has been meted on them, and that is the reality of having ineffective institutions. If you remember, Barack Obama once said that what Africa needs is not really strong men, but great institutions. And I can say, Hussein, confidently, these strong institutions include political parties.
Dina, I'm sure you agree that no single party has the capacity to do that.
I think it's a tall order. If we are going to be real, it's a tall order. But having said that, it's very hard to invest so much money. So emotionally you've invested, financially you've invested, you've whipped up your supporters, then you lose. But I want to say that we don't have to be sore losers, because we still remain in our parties and we should support our parties even after we've lost. A good example is in Bamburi, where Mr. I can't remember his name right now, an MCA lost and actually took it in good stride and said that he was going to support the party, he was going to work with whoever it is that is going to be elected. That is what we want to see. I do not believe that the parties are capable to deal conclusively with the disputes that are there right now. Even after the elections, I do not think so.
And they shouldn't attempt, what do you think, to handle every case?
No, they say that we need a situation whereby justice not only needs to be done, but also seems to be done. So even that seeming part is part of the process. We are not. I was saying we were having a conversation in the morning, and we were discussing leadership, and specifically it was about what is the foundation of a nation. And I can tell you the foundation of a nation is usually its values. So when you look at, for example, our country, in our national anthem, on the third stanza, one of the things that we say is that justice be our shield and defend. So that is the justice even during this nomination process. So I think it is important that political parties put in mechanism, invest in processes that will ensure that even people feel that even though I did not win, the process in which I lost was fair. I was hearing a confession from an IBC officer that every time after an election, we have people who've lost who actually go to IBC to even vent, they complain, we borrowed money, we've invested. That process is important even for healing for individuals, but also for our country. I'll tell you this to say. ODM, for example, has been here with us from 2005, I think after the referendum. 2007. And then we have KANU, all these political parties. We needed them post-2017. So it is important that their processes are strengthened, not only for the good of our democracy. Remember, our Article 4 of our Constitution says that Kenya is a multi-party democracy governed by the national values under Article 10 too. So strong political parties are critical, and that's why we need, in this process, we're saying, to hold accountable institutions like the Registrar of Political Parties. Why is it that we cannot access the membership of some of these parties? How comes that people are voting who are not members of these parties? Because I can tell you from the supporters we are seeing who are voting, some of them are actually fans of these parties and not registered members of these parties. We need discipline.
Right, we're coming back to this conversation shortly, plus more, we'll link with more of our reporters in different counties where the nominations being held. You're watching a special coverage of the party primaries. We're back after this break.